Willy Wonka is a man of lots of mystical allure. His story has been told in many different ways throughout the years, leading people across the world to fall in love with the eccentric candy maker. Those who have read and watched the story of Charlie Bucket having the life-altering and magical experience of visiting the elusive Willy Wonka's factory often wonder what it would be like to taste and experience the magic of Wonka's incredible inventions. Lucky for us, throughout the past 52 years, many candies holding Wonka's iconic name have been sold and beloved by millions. In this video, I want to show you the magic of Wonka candy.
But before we can get right into that, I have one question. If you were one of the kids on that tour, if you sustained those injuries, wouldn't you want financial compensation? I personally would. Which is why I'm actually very happy to have partnered with Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Here's the thing. When you're seriously hurt, your injury could be worth millions. But people often get very lowballed by insurance companies who don't have their best interests in mind. However, with Morgan & Morgan, there's a chance you could get millions of dollars from your injury, because Morgan & Morgan doesn't settle for lowball offers. Hell, they've achieved significant verdicts in the last couple of months for victims involved in life-altering car crashes. Like 12 million in Florida, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer. Or 26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. And 6.8 million in my beautiful home city of New York, which is 25 times the highest insurance offer. I'm telling you, your case could be worth millions, and even if it isn't, Morgan & Morgan will fight for the biggest award possible.
If you become their client.
Because let's just say, they're the biggest for a reason, right? It only takes a few minutes to see if you have a case, and you can do it all online. Oh, and here's my favorite part, right? Their fee is absolutely free unless you win. There are zero upfront costs. Essentially, they'll only get paid if you get paid. You can click the link in the description and go to www.forthepeople.com/Raymundo. And a massive thank you to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this video. Okay, we're done. Now back to the video.
There are so many different candies under this brand, and I feel the best way to actually introduce them all is a brief history on Wonka as a brand itself. The Wonka Candy Brand was officially started in 1971 when Quaker Oats bought the rights to the Wonka name and started producing chocolate candies to coincide with the film that they financed. The Wonka brand started off simple. There was the Peanut Butter Scrunch Bar, Oompas, and the Scrumdiddlyumptious Bar. Unfortunately for them, this launch of candy was a complete disaster. One of their chocolate bars had a flaw in the formula, which led to the candy bars melting at room temperature. Not only this, but the film was expected to be a smash hit, but ended up being a complete financial failure, meaning that Quaker Oats ended up coming out at a loss. The Wonka Candy Brand was in collaboration with the Sunmark Company, known for their candy like Lick-O-Made and Pixie Sticks. After the Wonka chocolate release failed, Quaker Oats sold the rights to Wonka to Sunmark, alongside their remaining stock of candy for a small amount, which led them to rebrand many of their existing candies under the Wonka name, often appearing in the top left corner of the candy. This gave the already existing candies an extra touch of magic. If you know anything about the story of the original Wonka movie, you know that despite being a failure initially, the film had a massive comeback in the home media market, leading it to garner a massive fanbase and become a cult classic. The man behind Sunmark was one by the name of Menlo F. Smith. Smith was an incredibly creative thinker and in a sense was kind of a real-life Willy Wonka. His father created something by the name of Kool-Aid back during the Great Depression, which throughout the years was rebranded and reformatted in different ways, with Fruzola being the lasting name. And that exact Kool-Aid powder was used as the baseline for many of the iconic Wonka candy that we know today. Menlo sold the Wonka brand to another company, who was then shortly after bought by Nestle. Of course, I want to be clear that Nestle is absolutely evil, and in every way. They employ slave labor in the production of their chocolates. Their former CEO has gone on record to say that water is not a fundamental human right, among a bunch of other just horrendous evil things. So I just want to be so clear that when we talk about Nestle, I am not trying to paint them in a positive light, but we're just looking back on candy in a nostalgic sense. We're just here to have fun and talk about the candy outside of the company that produced it. The Willy Wonka brand was advertised even more under Nestle's ownership, with them creating an adorable and whimsical variety of commercials that were beloved by those who grew up with them. In 2005, many new Wonka candy products were made to tie in with the release of the new film, such as a new line of Wonka bars, with their own real-life golden ticket promotion, Wonka Exploders, Wonka Candy Donuts, Oompas, although in a different iteration this time, among many other candies. When this film came out, it was kind of the peak of this brand's popularity, as people wanted to watch the movie with products made by Willy Wonka himself. The quality of the Wonka bars they made are definitely debated by those who were lucky enough to actually try them when they were around, but generally people look back on them fondly. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to try one of these, despite always really wanting to when I was a little kid. In 2010, a real-life Willy Wonka's chocolate factory was open at the Times Square Toys R Us. This area of the store was essentially a themed candy shop, not unlike something you'd see at It's Sugar or FAO Schweetz. This store was fantastic, but I'll talk more about that later. Around this time, the logo and a couple other logos and packaging were rebranded with a more modern look, some of these being downgrades in my opinion. Alongside this, many experimental candies were made and discontinued by this point. But the core of these products still remained. Wonka continued to remain on the candy boxes until 2015, when Nestle decided that they wanted to stray away from using logos and brands that would imply that their company provided and promoted unhealthy products, as they were trying to trick the public into thinking that their company was a wholesome and healthy one. This led them to discontinue the Wonka brand name, and in its place, the new Nestle Candy Shop was made, which was a very generic and plain sort of logo that was used for the branding. However, nothing replaced the Wonka logo in the top left. They didn't readjust the boxes and the designs, so this made all the candies look like they were just fundamentally missing something, which is how they look to this day. During this time, many of the candies were also completely rebranded. Wonka's Kazoozles became Sweet Tarts Ropes, and the candy's filling was no longer blue. Shockers were rebranded to Sweet Tarts Chewy Sours, making them incredibly generic and bland. Many of the formerly creative Wonka candy names were just changed to some variation of Sweet Tarts branding. Now, what's interesting is that in 2018, Ferrera, a candy company owned by Ferrero who makes products like Nutella and Ferrero Rocher, which you're probably familiar with, purchased the Wonka Candy Brand from Nestle for over $2.8 billion. They now have owned and produced Wonka candy to this day, but despite owning the license to the Wonka name, the candies remain brandless. However, interestingly enough, many of the original candies still have their whimsical little rhymes on the back of the packaging from the Wonka days. This makes them still feel kind of special and unique amongst a sea of candy with some really bland marketing. Something else that I find very interesting is that despite being brandless under Ferrera, if you look on Amazon for this candy, the Wonka store is an actual page that you can visit. The storefront is styled with the classic Wonka stuff, with a cute purple space aesthetic alongside the iconic Wonka logo. The font that's used throughout is also the same one that they use on their packaging. Now, thinking and looking at all these candies makes you want to look back at all the Wonka candy that's been created throughout the years, and my memories with them. The one candy that's directly linked to the films are the iconic Gobstoppers. Despite not really resembling those seen in the film, the candy still provides a really sweet and magical experience as a little kid. This wasn't helped by my mom loving them as a kid, making them that much more special and elusive. When I was little, Gobstoppers had this little guy as a mascot, and oh my goodness, he's adorable. Look at how incredibly chill this little dude is. Like, come on. Along with the Gobstoppers existed Chewy Gobstoppers, which are pretty self-explanatory. The hard pink core was replaced with a chewy one, the texture resembling those mini Sweet Tarts candies. These were absolutely fantastic, but unfortunately have stopped being produced. When the rebrand happened in 2010, the little Gobstopper guy was taken away. Poor little guy. And I really hope we see him again at some point. Another classic and iconic candy is Nerds. If you've somehow never tried these before, then first of all, how? And second, you're missing out. Nerds have been around since 1983, back when Sunmark owned the Wonka brand, and they've taken a life of their own at this point. Nerds are the closest candy you can get to just eating straight up sugar crystals, and that's basically what they are, with a light tangy coating outside them. These candies have lent themselves to many variations, and of course, Nerds themselves have different types of different flavors and sour variations. But there are also candies like Big Chewy Nerds, and of course, what's arguably their most popular product, Nerds Rope, which is essentially a string of gummy candy coated in Nerds, and it's fantastic. The nerd characters themselves have had kind of a life of their own and have their own large variety of merchandise and things that include Funko Pops. Despite them never being officially under the Wonka brand, Ferrera has released Nerds Gummy Clusters, which are a huge success and are basically bite-sized Nerds ropes with tiny nerds. It's really great stuff, and it's exciting to see people so happy about this candy. To me, there are some really core Wonka candies that are just kind of wacky and weird, that are just so representative of the brand. Candies like Bottle Caps, a soda-flavored set of chalky, fizzy candies that have the goal of being like having a soda just in candy form, which is very, very Wonka. And of course, Runts. These are these crunchy, fruit-shaped candies that somewhat closely mimic the actual fruit they're based on, with the banana being the most unique and iconic one. Chewy Runts were sold in the early 2000s, but unfortunately aren't around anymore. However, if they were anything like Chewy Gobstoppers, they were probably really good. Runts also feel very Wonka in nature, and I could see them being described in a really fun way if they were in the book. Runts aren't necessarily the best candy in the world, neither are Bottle Caps, but they're total classics. Another candy staple of Wonka is Laffy Taffy. Laffy Taffy is also a candy that has a life of its own due to how much of an iconic candy staple it really is. I don't know anyone who hasn't experienced the fun of chewing on one of these on a cold Halloween night, notably the purple or pink or yellow ones, and like none in between for some reason. Laffy Taffy come in all shapes and sizes and flavors with a huge variety in what you can get. Laffy Taffy has a very iconic banana flavor that's strangely divisive, with some people loving it and others absolutely hating it. All taffy aren't the most magical candy out of the bunch, but that doesn't mean I think they're bad by any means. Something I do find pretty whimsical are Fun Dip. Fun Dip are genuinely the taste of childhood in so many ways, and whenever I have some, it just brings me right back. Fun Dip was originally sold as Lick-A-Made, which is inspired by consumers of Frizola pouring the powder straight into their mouths instead of mixing it with water like Kool-Aid as it was intended. They started selling Lick-A-Made purely for the purpose of eating the powder straight up. Doing this, however, was pretty messy, so they came up with the idea to add an edible candy stick to eat the powder with. From there, they renamed it to Fun Dip, but Lick-A-Made still appeared in the packaging and still does to this day. This candy was incredibly popular and people adored it. When it was rebranded to Wonka, they started to advertise that the Raz Apple Magic Dip as color changing, because when you would get it wet, the blue powder would turn into a bright green. Back in the 2000s, Fun Dip looked like this. These adorable little characters bring me so much joy, and this packaging was so adorable and perfectly resembled the experience that you're about to have. This candy carries so much fun and whimsy and tastes like pure childhood, and it absolutely carries that Wonka magic. One of my personal favorite candies from Wonka is Spree. Spree are some of the most underrated candies that I know of, and they're genuinely so good. They're kind of like a sweet tart with a crunchy candy coating on the outside. They're sour, tangy, and each tablet has a great kick of flavor. Spree were another old Sunmark candy that, to my knowledge, ended up being rebranded as Wonka with Nestle's purchase. And they've been around for a very, very long time. There aren't many variations of Spree other than the chewy version, alongside a candy cane flavor sold around the holidays. Spree's never really advertised outside of an incredibly 2000s commercial for Chewy Spree using the tagline, "It's a kick in the mouth." In terms of how wonky they are, I'd say that they aren't super mystical or special, but they are just a very, very solid candy. A candy with a similar form factor is my personal favorite out of the Wonka line, Shockers. Shockers were an incredibly delicious and surprisingly sour candy that provided a really intense kick and some fantastic flavors. Originally released as Shock Tarts, these candies had a more intense and cool design on their packaging, which was very indicative of the time in which they were released. This 2000s edge is almost as delicious as the candy itself. This candy was sour all the way through, but at different levels. They had a layer of sour glaze around the top, and when you got to the chewy center, it got more and more sour. Like to the point where if you had more than 5 of these, it would make the roof of your mouth peel. The way they advertised these was really fun too, with the old animated Wonka candy commercials that ran throughout the 90s and early 2000s, showing that when making this candy, it takes 78 kajillion bolts of edible dynamite to give the iconic shock flavor.
This is how we put the shock in Shock Tarts. The end result, 78 kajillion volts of edible dynamite.
Shockers were known as such until Nestle got rid of the Wonka branding and repackaged them as extreme sour sweet tarts, in a very bland and uninteresting bag, with the standard sweet tarts art style. These were sold as such until 2022 when they were taken off the shelves and replaced with a new formula. These were sold as Sweet Tarts Chewy Extreme Sour, as opposed to Sweet Tarts Extreme Chewy Sour. Huge difference, I know. According to online reviews, this re-release was much less sour, and the sour coating that used to be on the top was just a sweet, crunchy shell now, and the middle was a lot less sour as well. From what I can tell, they stopped selling these around 2023, but I'm not actually completely sure when these were taken off the shelves. However, I couldn't find them on the shelves on any major websites. Despite Shockers' unfortunate end, these candies were still fantastic. To me, this is the best Wonka candy, and absolutely feels like something out of the book. And you know what? You'll see them later. Shockers themselves had some variants, such as Shockers Minis, a tiny version of Shockers, alongside Shockers Squeeze, a paste-like candy that was basically just Shockers flavored toothpaste. Shockers/Shock Tarts are technically a variant of Sweet Tarts, who really need no introduction. Sweet Tarts were created when the Sunmark company took their Frizola powder to a local Tums factory, and used their machines to turn their powder into a candy sort of puck. From there, Sweet Tarts were born, and the rest is history. Honestly, Sweet Tarts stand on their own outside of Wonka, and have too many variants to list here. But I think it's safe to say that most people have tried and enjoyed them. I remember when I was little, I often mistook Sweet Tarts for Smarties, like American Smarties, which was something that I would end up having a lot of on Halloween nights. Smarties are, they're okay. But when you have a sweet tart next to a Smartie, the difference in quality is insane. Sweet tarts have taken on a life of their own, as mentioned earlier. And to the average consumer, sweet tarts and nerds are completely brands of their own. They have their own aesthetics and advertisements, and have effectively split from the Wonka brand. One of the Wonka ones was something called Sweet Tart Squeeze, which is the same thing as Shocker Squeeze. But otherwise, most of the variations happened when the Wonka brand was taken away. Such as Wonka's Kazoozles, a licorice candy with a soft, sweet center. This candy was pretty good, and I remember my first time having it was at a movie theater, watching that weird-ass CGI Wizard of Oz sequel. To me, there was never enough candy in the bags, but hey, it is what it is. This candy was rebranded to Sweet Tarts Ropes, undergoing a change in packaging alongside the soft candy on the inside being stripped of its fun coloring. Around the release of the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, there were many new Wonka candies that were made to help promote the film, as mentioned earlier. Candies like Oompas, a sweet, chewy fruit candy, Exploder, a Wonka bar infused with popping candy, which is pretty weird, but not as weird as Wonka's Donuts, which were these chocolate candy donuts with a thick layer of chocolate on the outside, and within that, a more gooey chocolate cream. Atop the donut, there were small, hard candy sprinkles, and if I'm being 100% honest, it looks kinda gross. And according to online reviews, they were definitely split on whether or not this was a good product. Either way, it's still very creative and very wonky. Other candies that were around during this time were Tart and Tiny, and the elusive Wonkazoids, an odd Game & Watch style handhelds that were essentially a video game and candy dispenser mashup. Very, very little was actually known about these until a YouTuber by the name of Crispy Boy made a video about them, where he talks all about them, and actually finds and buys a sealed Wonkazoid and displays it for us. There's very little information about them online otherwise, so if you want to learn more about an obscure Wonka handhold, check out Crispy Boy's video. Something that I really love about the Wonka Candy Brand is how experimental it was. Some of the products were really odd, like randoms. Their entire gimmick was that no bag was the same, as each candy in the bag had unique combinations of properties. For example, there could be a mixed bag of candy, with some of them having a gooey center, a soft bottom, and so on. This made getting a bag of this candy different every single time, which is honestly kinda genius. Another really odd one that I never tried but did see in stores was Wonka Peel-A-Pops, an ice cream candy that emulated the experience of peeling open a banana. These Peel-A-Pops had an ice cream pop at the center that you had to reveal by pulling back the gummy peel, or just biting right through the whole thing. These things came in yellow and purple, and are such a fun and creative concept that I wish I could have tried back when they were out. Very whimsical and very creative. And of course, we can't forget Pixie Sticks, a staple not only to the Wonka brand, but to candy in general. Pixie Sticks are essentially like a ground-up sweet tart, or Fun Dip powder, a tangy, sugary powder that hits you with a kick of flavor every time you take a taste of it. These Pixie Sticks come in tubes, making it easy for you to eat. They are an absolute staple, and have that fun, creative twist that Wonka thrives on. So to my knowledge, that's the majority of the candy from the Wonka brand. But their advertisement wasn't just candy. Wonka had some awesome online advertisements in the form of flash games. There are a lot, so I'm not really going into too much detail, but they were really cool and coincided with the new candy releases. If you want to learn more about these flash games, then I'd highly recommend watching Dream Jelly's video on Wonka. It's a really fun video, and I can't even lie, I've watched it so many times. So I don't think it makes sense to have a video all about candy and not actually try any of it. So I donned my best attire and went out into the world and found all the Wonka candy that's still in existence. Here is me terrorizing New York City. Enjoy.
What's going on, my friend?
This is fantastic.
fantastic. Is it edible?
No way.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for those harsh icebreakers.
Thanks anyway.
Take care.
So, here we go. I have gone out, I've terrorized New York City, the fit was so hard, I was called a slur, and now it is time for the official taste test of this candy. Now, it's been a while since I've had a couple of these, so I've talked a lot about what is special, what's magical, and really, you know, Willy Wonka-y about these candies, but now it's time for me to actually, you know, show you the candies themselves. And something that's been calling my eye is runts, because you can so easily tell with a lot of these, my kind of thing about them is that they're slanted, so you can have the Wonka logo in the top corner, come in, and it just looks so much better. They look empty. Same with bottle caps. Slanted to the side, just put a Wonka logo right there. And honestly, with gobstoppers too, there's room for it on all of them, and it's unfortunate, but you know what? Wonka lives on. Here's runts. As stated earlier, you saw the rest. They're hard candy. These are some retro ones. Here's all the flavors. Right here, in the palm of my hand. Banana first. It's the most like iconic one. You know, there's no other way to describe it other than just like runts banana, but it's good. And quite frankly, they all are. I'm not gonna lie to you, it tastes almost exactly like a green sweet tart or a green spree, one of the two, and I'm gonna try it out soon because I just noticed that. Again, I have these more than I have this, so yeah, I wonder if it's the same for all of them, honestly. I love eating chalk with colorful coating around it. I've made a realization here. I'm gonna crack open this spree. The way that, according to the Wonka Unwrapped episode, the way that you're supposed to open these kind of tubes is up to you, really, but they show them cracking them in the middle like this. We'll crack spree in the middle, and we'll unravel sweet tarts. Part of the magic of sweet tarts is that you don't know what's coming next in your tube. Now, I'm not gonna bore you and try every single flavor of every single one of these, because I don't think that's very entertaining. Green one, it's different from that. Let me try the spree. Spree I generally like a lot better. They are more of a kick in the mouth over sweet tarts. Sweet tarts are still very, very good, but you kind of have to suck on them, if that makes any sense. Are they the same green guy? Let's see. Yeah. This is a more sour version of this. That's weird. I mean, look at the insides. It's whatever. This table's gonna turn into a mess of candy, by the way. It's part of the magic, you know? These guys, right here. A Wonka classic. They are giant, chewy sweet tarts. And that is exactly what they are. And it's a perfect name for them. So, this one actually does come with the same order every time. And they have an interesting form factor. They're huge, and they've got these little panels on them, or something, little indentations that you can. Oh, I just actually scraped my hand on this. You eat them by splitting them up into little quarters, and they do that for you. These are really good, very childhood. I'm gonna have a lot of leftover bottle caps and runts. So bottle caps are interesting because, as stated earlier, they're meant to give you the feeling of eating a soda. Are these smaller? Either this is shrinkflation, or I'm remembering the like kind of tube packaged ones which are bigger. Unfortunately, I like these, but they kind of taste like medicine, mildly fizzy, that's for sure. Probably in terms of actual flavor, I love the idea of them, I love the creativity, and I love the box design. I love how old they are. They're not my favorite, I'm not gonna lie to you. But that doesn't mean they're bad by any means. Just out of a lot of really solid candy, they taste a little like medicine, and that kind of turns me off from them. So what we have here is some formerly known as kazoozles, sweet tarts, soft and chewy ropes. However, my local grocery store held these. I was like, oh, perfect, I'll pick them up for the video. These are by Nestle.
And if you paid any attention, Nestle hasn't owned this brand in a really, really long time. So these are old. I think I did the math. I think they're like a minimum of 5 years old, I believe, but I could be wrong about that. Or 6, which is scary, yes, but you know what? They might still be good. Oh, no. Oh, God. These have certainly seen better days. As you can see, this looks like a saggy piece of... Oh, it's like flaking. That's kind of disgusting. This is what a Kazoozle looked like. But it's not, though, because they were vibrant and it looked like candy. This looks like something's intestine. The licorice has gone completely soft. There's no more of that kind of bite to it. Not the worst thing in the world, for sure. You can tell it's not fresh, though. Am I gonna be in the hospital for eating these? Definitely not. I kind of wish I got a fresh batch, I suppose. Something else we've got here is the iconic and classic Laffy Taffy. This is one of the long form ones, right? And these all have jokes on them. That's kind of their gimmick. This is fresh, to my knowledge. And it's a long one. Usually they're these little tiny ones. Give me a second, hold on. This is the normal form factor on these that you'll see. I think this has got a joke too. What did the math book say to his doctor? I'm full of problems. That's what a average Laffy Taffy looks like. Here's a long one. Laffy Taffy's never necessarily been my thing. It's not bad by any means. Very chewy, gets stuck in your teeth. And as I always say, it's a long-lasting flavor. Cause yeah, good stuff. I respect it. It's a classic, you know? Another classic and iconic one is Pixie Sticks. I'm supposed to open them with scissors. My house, we don't use scissors. We use knives for just about everything.
That's not a knife. That's a knife.
So, check it out. Long tube. It's very harshly sawed open. Looks like some animal got to it, but... It's good though. This is the inspiration to many of Sunmark's candies. If you were to take a bunch of sweet tarts or Spree and crush them up into a fine powder, it would be like this. Overall, it's sugar that you pour straight into your mouth. What else we have here are my old favorites here. Fun Dip. Fun Dip are just like I said earlier, these are childhood in the most pure way possible. The stick itself is edible. And so yeah, we have our blue stick here of powder. There's no way you can't love Fun Dip, honestly. Even when the bottom of the bag gets a little saggy when you're almost done with it because of the wet nature of your mouth. That's a weird way to say it. It's still really good. It's still a classic. We're down to Nerds Ropes and Nerds Gummy Clusters. Nerds Gummy Clusters, these technically are not a Wonka candy on account of the fact that they never had the Wonka branding. But listen, if it was still a thing, they would be, so they count here. They are basically comprised of very tiny nerds. Here's a Nerd's Rope. As you can see, this is kind of the more normal size of nerds. As a lot of the advertisements show, this candy is fun to play with before you eat it. It's just a rope made of candy. That's fantastic. Basically, these are our Nerds Gummy Clusters. The Nerds Gummy Clusters are Nerds Rope, just made tiny. And honestly, I'm always gonna prefer the Nerds Rope. Form factor's too fun. I like the bigger Nerds, it gives more crunch. These are really, really popular, as they should be. Something else we got here is Gobstoppers. These are the most directly linked to Willy Wonka. Do they look like the Gobstoppers from the film? No, but they're more so described like the book ones. So I'll take these two here. Starting colors, red and purple. So, it appears that our red has turned orange and our purple has turned red or pink. The core is always like a light pink. Now that I'm eating this all, it kind of all leads back to like the Fruzzola products. Like it all leads back to Sweet Tarts and all leads back to Pixie Sticks because the crunchy inside of Gobstoppers are basically just kind of like the inside of a Spree or the inside of a Runt. And that's actually really interesting. I didn't realize that initially. Ferrera never really changed up the formulas too much to my knowledge on these core candies. They did with one we'll talk about later that you already heard of, the Shockers / Sweet Tarts Chewy Sours. But otherwise this stuff tastes pretty much the same. They changed a few things up like Butterfinger and that sort of thing. Maybe it's because they were using less slave chocolate than Nestle. You might have noticed this and you might be curious about it. This here is a Wonka bar, but the thing is they don't make Wonka bars anymore. They haven't for a really, really long time. But on eBay, you can find Wonka bars. This cost me around $27 to $28. This is the most I've ever spent for a bar of chocolate, but it's special. Now, this is something I've wanted to do since I was a young child. I always wanted a Wonka bar when I was little. I'd watch both the 2005 film and the 1971 one, and it was just so magical. And I was also a huge fan of the books. I read Glass Elevator. My mom read it to me. No one knows what Glass Elevator is. There's a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it takes place, it's like a space survival story. It gets really weird. I don't know. It was crazy. But I'll let you guys get the view of it first. Am I a winner? Probably. I would imagine they would pack these things with golden tickets. And indeed I am! Wonka's golden ticket. It's got a nice sheen to it. It's got a nice shine. And we'll see what the chocolate bar is inside. I'm a fucking sucker. I spent $30 for a Hershey's bar. There's your Wonka chocolate. I was really hoping it was some sort of like custom Wonka chocolate. As we all know, it tastes like vomit. So we're gonna just put that right back in there, and this will be a nice little display piece for me. I feel mildly scammed. So up next is Ferrera Candy Shop. This stuff is actually very, very interesting to me because it uses the Wonka font right here. It's got a purple top to it, but it's called Ferrera Candy Shop, which is not a name they ever use in the marketing. How hard is it to just call it Wonka? I don't know, but it feels like they're doing everything but calling it Wonka. It's all this lip balm that tastes like the candy or is supposed to. Here we got Pixie Sticks, Fun Dip, Nerds as well, just flavored. This exact Laffy Taffy, the Gobstopper one, Sweethearts, Banana Laffy Taffy. I'm actually very curious to try this guy out. It's blue, which is really cute. That's kind of a miss. That's okay. Okay, interesting. This is a really grainy one. This one is smooth, this one's grainy, like the inside of a Gobstopper. Grape Fun Dip, smells like grape Fun Dip. What did they just missed on this blue stuff? Yeah, that does not that doesn't smell anything like it. Sweethearts. Let's see. It's supposed to be cherry and lemon flavored. Yeah, I can see it. It's all very subtle, you know, it's lip balm, but Pixie Sticks. It's got the essence, the aroma. Nerds has got such a particular flavor to it. Nerds smells and tastes like what the M&M's World store in Times Square tastes like, or it smells like, which is really weird. I don't know why. Some sort of artificial like scent that they use. I don't want to have banana on my lips, but I trust it. And this one, it all right. So something I wondered was whether or not they really made candy for the new Wonka movie. They made some very kind of limited things as promotional stuff that they would send to influencers and stuff, but that's not really something I had the capacity of getting. They don't make it anymore. But something really cool I found was a Kinder Joy Wonka pack. Which, I don't know, it's just kind of cool to see a Wonka logo on a chocolate product, and especially such a kind of magical product as Kinder Eggs. I bought these as the ones that aren't legal in the United States off eBay, and I thought I was going to get the ones that aren't legal in the United States off eBay, but I did not get the ones who were illegal in the United States off eBay. But you know what? It's probably for the best. I know it's technically like illegal to own them. Here we go. If you've never seen a Kinder Joy before, then I'm shocked because these things are really popular with kids, and they are, quite frankly, very delicious. What we're gonna do is see some of the prizes and see if they're any good. Is this a Wonka fidget spinner? This is interesting. I would never expect to find a fidget spinner in a Kinder Egg, but here we are in the year 2024. It spins! You may be asking, how is this Willy Wonka? Well, it comes with this little, like, chibi Timothy Chalamet sticker set on it. I'm just realizing I'm doing a surprise egg channel thing right here. I don't know what happened, but I'm having fun, and you, if you're still watching, I'm assuming you are too. Oh, wow, we got the little girl from the film. I don't remember her name. That's cute. It's a little figure here. I don't know what I'm gonna do with these figures when I'm done with this video. I want to get a Wonka figure. I've never had this many Kinder Eggs at my... Okay, another fidget spinner. Oh no, what is this? Got a little character skeleton here. And it's the little girl, and you punch out her face and put it onto this odd little body. Not my Wonka figure, though. Okay, we got same thing, but for Mr. Timothy Chalamet Wonka, who is not my Wonka, to be clear. I don't think it was a very good portrayal of the character. I feel like he was not odd enough, not off enough. Willy Wonka's kind of an insane man, and that's part of the interest. Another fidget spinner, man.
Another fidget spinner. Oh, jeez. Well, now I have Kinder Eggs, so I'm gonna just have one. Now they replaced the little spoons who were plastic prior to being paper, which I understand the intention for, but now they fall apart in your mouth. Speaking from experience, I've had these very recently. They're incredibly good. It's incredibly solid chocolate. There is one thing that they made for this new Wonka movie, and it's something that brought me way more joy than it should have, and that is Wonka Magic Hat Gummies. And now what you might notice about these is that this is using the OG Wonka logo from the candy. The one that should be right here is on this bag. I first saw these at a Willy Wonka themed candy store in Pennsylvania called Grandpa Joe's. Super cute place, I'd highly recommend it. And I was so excited, and it's kind of what inspired me to make this video. Here we have the Wonka with the old logo, Magic Hat Gummies. And now there's so much shit on the table that you can't see what's going on, but they're little top hats, like the one that I'm wearing. And on the inside, okay, these are a little old. There's a blue dye that's supposed to turn your tongue blue. I really appreciate that little detail. Really cute though. All of this here is new stuff that you can get on the shelves anytime. And sure, it's still technically Wonka candy, but I wanted a legitimate Wonka candy from the time. And I wanted my favorite Wonka candy. You might find the absence of one that I talked about earlier, being Sweet Tarts Chewy Sours, aka Shockers. Yeah, so I found these on eBay for $150. And is that an insane amount of money to spend on candy? Yeah, but it's also sealed. These expired in 2015 in August. So they're only, give or take, 8 years old. And they expired 8 years ago. You know, it's similar to a Sweet Tarts or something like that. And those who say these things are just Sweet Tarts but chewy is just not true, because these things are in a league of their own. So here are some Shockers. Down the hatch. It's good, especially this one actually. It tastes like a fresh Shocker. Again, these things are 8 years old, although usually these things expire within 2 years of their creation. So these expired 8 years ago, but they were probably created around 10 years ago, if we're being realistic. Something that is mildly concerning though, right here on the package it says contains eggs from a chicken that's long dead. Egg that is now 10 years old is a little concerning. The only real problem with these Shockers is that they leave a mild bile aftertaste, but otherwise they're really solid. I wouldn't be surprised honestly if these old ones hold up better than the new iteration of them. As disgusting as that would be, they're really good until you taste the vomit. That's my Shockers. Was it worth $150? Absolutely. I'm probably gonna sell most of these on eBay. You know, I didn't really think through what I'm gonna do with this box of candy. I'll probably just have it in my room. If you've watched this far, you get a treat, right? I'm gonna be giving away a brand new tube of Shockers, and I'll autograph it. I don't even care. This is gonna be the first official giveaway. So genuinely, I will be giving you a tube of Shockers. All you gotta do is comment Shockers below. That's what I need to know for you to enter it, and then I'll respond and try and get your Discord, and then from there we can discuss the, you know, shipping and all that stuff. But this tube could be yours with my DNA all over it. If that sounds like something you'd want, then comment Shockers below. The giveaway will be going on for around 2 weeks after the video's out, so comment away.
So in conclusion, the Wonka brand was an incredibly influential and historic piece of candy and, well, mainly just candy, but, you know, really good candy and pop culture as a whole. I truly think it's underappreciated in modern days, and I think if Ferrera gave it a little more emphasis on the Wonka brand itself, brought back the logo, kind of did some stuff with that, then hey, they might see a little bit of resurgence, because from what I can tell, Gen Z is a very, very nostalgic generation, and we miss the stuff that we don't have anymore. So, you know, it's fascinating. The truth of it all comes from the fact that so many of these Wonka candies are built off the same baseline, which is incredibly interesting to me, and honestly, something I had no idea about before making this video. Also, let me, give the biggest shout out I've ever given out. Record Breaker 301. This channel made a video called Willy Wonka and the Hypocrisy Factory, and it's such a good video. I use it as one of my research sources. And it's just incredible. The whole channel, every video on this channel is so high quality and so entertaining and so underrated. I highly suggest you check out not only the Wonka video, but all of their other videos. It's such a good channel. That's pretty much it though. If you want those shockers, comment away. You've got this. It's gonna be awesome. Happy holidays to you all. And now it's time to thank the lovely patrons over on Patreon.
Chuck Cheese, Evie Pacini, John Grob, Orcanis, Tortured Torchic, Dean Cribben, Buttboy, Guillermo Rivera, Stephen I, Galta Trial, Shadows Big Nuts, Papercut 07, The Mela Experience, Mad 90, Rogue Reflex, and Cystix. You're making the channel happen, and I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, that's it.